You are a former Knicks fan. You came back around to the Commandos because of Jaden Daniels. This last thing ain't make you come around to the Knicks. Did you come back?
I mean, a big part of why I came around to the Commandos was because they got Snyder up out of there. Dolan's still at the Knicks, so that's kind of where I'm still pumping the brakes on this.
Okay,
but
that raises a hold on. You hit it right on the nose, though. We're gonna go with that. That's where it is, right? Because we are now in the middle of a great Jim Dolan situation. First of all, the Knicks, another team without a single cool person on it since they traded my man Dante. Dante was carrying cool for the whole operation. When you go back and think about it, man, they ain't got no cool cats, and they got him out of there. They got him out of there and brought Carl in, right? Like that was a huge deficit trade for them. When it came to the cool, right? Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, Dante is cool shit. That clip of him coming back to MSG and talking shit at the free throw line to Tibbs, like, you say I can't finish, right? And just sitting those free throws, like,
that's
Dante's a cool motherfucker right there.
That's what I'm saying. But, okay, so the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. Understandable. Even if we wouldn't have done it, I get it. They made the trade.
Would you have fired Thibodeau?
I would not have fired him for the reasons that they seem to fire him. Well, no, I would have fired him for the reason they seem to fire him. But my buddy Vinny had a good report at Yahoo about this. Jim Dolan sat in on the exit interviews. Jim Dolan was coming in to fire him, basically. And he asked the question in the exit interviews. And I wonder if the players really felt the ways that they said, or they knew that this was the answer that the boss had. But there were guys that were like, yo, players typically decide when a coach gets fired. And it sounded like a lot of the players had enough with him. It is a difficult thing to fire a coach, though, after your greatest success in God knows how many years. Like, it's not necessarily a great look, but I've said this on this show many times. I could come up with a reason to fire anybody. If I want to, you could come up with the reason, right? But it looks like Jim Dolan wants to hire Jason Kidd. And if you know anything about James Dolan, Jason Kidd seems like the kind of guy that he would want to hire. Okay? This is all over. Because, hey, say what you want about Jim Dolan, boy. That man done made fortunes for black people. Good graciousness. Coaches in particular, Jim Dolan, I don't know if he agrees with the Robert Sarver philosophy on these matters. You may remember the Robert Sarver quote. But it sure seems like it.
These
but
brothers
anyway,
need a brother for
yes, that's right. That is right. Like me like.
That is just one of those incredible quotes that came from a terrible person, and it's like, why did you we needed the person you're saying was needed here to say this quote.
And for those of you who don't know, when Baxter Holmes did his kind of expose into the racism of Robert Sarver when he owned the Suns. And by the way, this happens a lot with racist people who own teams. And we're talking about hiring a coach for the squad, and he said these N-words need an N-word, which none of us like the language, but all of us knew what he was saying. Yeah. And many of us can say that maybe in that case he had a point.
And the important distinction is he didn't go hard ER on it.
Correct.
Right? That's a very important distinction, because that's such an incredible quote. If it would have came from, like, James Johnson or someone in there, dog, like, you know what I mean? But
I mean, it's basically what Brad Stevens realized. Brad Stevens was like, yo, they need a new voice. And the new voice that they got was Ime Udoka, who, if you subscribe to the theory that those thems need a them, Ime Udoka is central casting exactly what you would say.
Yes, a dude who does not mince his words in the slightest.
No. And he that dude, right? So Jason Kidd, it seems, is the sort of guy that the Knicks want to hire. Of course, the problem is Jason Kidd already has a job. Now, I have 2 points I want to bring up on this, and I want to see what you think about them. Point number one, wasn't no way in the world, if you know anything about Jason Kidd is a political animal, and there was no way in the world that Jason Kidd was going to allow himself to go down with the ship with Nico after making that Luka trade. I don't know if he was or wasn't on board with it. It don't matter. Once it became clear that the streets was not on board with it, Jason Kidd's getting himself out of association with it. This right here, that right there, that was always a guarantee. Like, if you didn't see that coming, you have not been paying attention to the last 30 years of Jason Kidd. Point number two, I believe that when the talent says it's over, it's over. And so if Jason Kidd wants to get out of there, Nico would be wise to let him go, because otherwise Jason Kidd is going to make this real tough on you. You need to go ahead and let him go. But you don't let him go without some measure of compensation. Everybody understands that.
Yes.
What that means is there will be a negotiation where on one side is the dude who traded Luka Doncic for not enough. And on the other side will be Jim Dolan, who is a notorious overpayer if he wants something. See Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
Those two guys negotiating a deal? Ooh, I am intrigued.
Yeah, it's and for one, this doesn't disprove anyone who thinks that the Brunson family is running that organization, because Rick and Kid had those Dallas ties there. Also is a lot of fodder for the conspiracy theorists who think they were going to make a go at Giannis. Giannis and Kid, Kid coach Giannis in Milwaukee. Giannis had an incredible story where he said he went home from practice one day pissed at Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd was on his ass that day. He said, who does this Jason Kidd guy think he is? Let me Google who this dude is. And he said he was blown away to find out how incredible Jason Kidd was, right? Like, yeah, Jason Kidd was a monster, as a basketball player, bro. Like that 2001, 2002 season when he went to the Nets and flipped them from a 26-win team to a 52-win team.
Yes. And
finished second to Tim Duncan, the MVP voter. He was my MVP that season. I understand people giving it to Tim, but that was an incredible season.
That season ruined Stephon Marbury's reputation forever.
Yeah. There's that too. He went to Phoenix and just became the empty stats guy after that.
But also, it was a 1-for-1 trade.
Mm-hmm.
And simply switching out Stephon Marbury, who was cold. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah, he was incredible.
But simply switching him out for Jason Kidd, they got 30 wins better.
Yeah. There were no other major tweaks to that roster other than Kidd for Marbury that year, and they won 30 more games. Yeah, really incredible. But going back to the Tibbs discussion, I think that getting Tibbs out of there was the right choice, man. I think that in this era, in the second apron era, the new CBA era, I think your windows are even smaller than they were before. And I think that when you've got the roster, when you've got a core that can win a championship, like that coach's hot seat gets even hotter if they can't produce. Every year matters now. If you got the roster that can contend for a championship and the money is working, every year is even more vital now, because it's going to come a day where that money doesn't work. And so I completely understand why they got Tibbs out of there.
Hold on. Do you think they have a roster that can compete for a championship? Because I don't think they do.
I do. I never looked at that roster during that Indiana series and thought they need another guy. They for sure need some more shooting. You can get MLE veteran minimum shooting. Everybody can shoot in today's league, right? They can get some more shooting. I do think that the whole point of your two best players cannot also be your two worst defenders, right? I think there's a case for that.
That's my issue.
I think there's a case for that. But at the same time, we saw Jokic and Jamal Murray run it up, and neither one of those guys are all-world defenders, to say the least.
Yeah, but neither one of these two guys is Nikola Jokic.
That is true. I think Cat is the second best center in the league, though, behind Jokic. I mean, is there agreements there?
Let's start.
I mean, the drop-off is huge for sure between Jokic and Cat.
Yeah. No, but I guess when you say that, because I thought Karl was really, really good this year. He's 24-12 and all of this stuff. But I'm trying to think of who else counts as a center in the league. That's where I'm, because I don't have an answer to say that you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, because I think this raised an interesting question. Would you rather have Karl Anthony Towns over a healthy Porzingis?
I mean, the whole thing about that Porzingis run last postseason to help the Celtics lock that ring up is we never quite seen Porzingis play at that level before. And I don't think he's ever going to get back to that either.
Is Karl Anthony Towns better than whatever version of Joel Embiid still exists?
No. Then whatever version, hold on. That's a unique qualifier. Because
that's the question.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what version we still have. Are we calling Anthony Davis a center?
He's a reluctant center who wants to play the
4.5. He's 4.5.
Yeah, he's a 4.5. That shit might have legitimately got him shipped out of LA. His reluctance to play the 5 too.
Let me tell you what got him shipped out of LA. Luka Doncic was on sale. That's what got him shipped out of LA. It's a Luka sale going on down there.
Yeah, stop. We are what? 5 months deep into the Luka trade, and I still can't fucking believe it, dog. I don't think I ever will.
I still don't. How it's going to end will be very interesting, and it's what gets us to the discussion we're in, right? It's what gets us to Jason Kidd is trying to bail, and see where I think Nico's in a trick bag there is, who you getting to take this job? Because it seems very clear to me that Nico Harrison is going to be fired as soon as it is politically expedient for them to do so. Mm-hmm. So, like, the guy who's hiring you is on thin ice. Who takes that job if they let Jason Kidd go? Like, so do you give Jason Kidd, call it $15 million a year, whatever it takes to keep him?
No, I think Jason Kidd wants out regardless, because I
agree.
He's a very smart man who has been in the NBA world for 30 years, and he knows how the chain of command goes once the firing start happens, and he knows the head coach is the first guy on the chopping block before he gets to the GM. And yeah, I think that Jason Kidd wants out. I think he'd be a good fit in the Knicks. I think that he's a defensive minded coach. He's someone who, like we said, he's a straight shooter. Like, he was just flat out telling us, bro, Luka has to step his defense up. Like, he was flat out telling us that in ways where it wasn't throwing Luka under the bus. He's like, we've had these discussions before, and he knows if he wants to take the next leap, this is what he has to work on, right? So yeah, I mean, and I think the coaching job he did last postseason was incredible. I think that he hid a lot of the weaknesses of a defensively limited backcourt with Kyrie and Luka, and didn't turn that into something that teams could capitalize on and win on in the playoffs. So I would be interested to see what he would scheme up for Brunson and Cat. I think that he's a great fit for the Knicks, and I completely understand why the Knicks got Thibodeau out there, because like I said, in this whole second apron era, every year where the money works, bro, you have to work with an increased sense of urgency.
I think you make a move like that, generally, one of two things happens. One of them, somebody wants to fire you, and that seemed very clear to be the case. But the second part is, do you have somebody that you know you can get? And I think somewhere along the way, the Knicks feel like they know they can get Jason Kidd. And I tell you this, though, it's about to be a pressure-packed job. Ain't no, we got to ease this in. Ain't none of that going, dog. The people here expect things now. They just fired a coach that went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you ain't been there in 20-something years. Like, this is going to be a thing.
Since the Larry Johnson 4-point play, since this moment, like, we're 25 years, though.